want to talk to you about the Olympics and cohesion. Strange time, wasn't it? Who's been to Stratford before? Yeah? Who's been to Stratford because of the Olympics? Mixed. Interesting time. You know, what were we promised? What were we told? A whole load of different things, that this would regenerate the area, this would reinvigorate the whole of Stratford and of East London. Well, some people argue it's worked, some people argue it hasn't worked. We've got a fantastic new station. If you'd been to Stratford a couple of years ago, you would have seen a very different, well, almost a subway, a dereliction, and just a whole subway connecting the old Stratford to the new Stratford. But now, we've got a whole new city, Westfield. Who's been to Westfield? Who came out of Westfield? It's an interesting concept, Westfield, because it tells us a lot about what regeneration means and the links with capitalism. Did you know that when a boy was stabbed in Westfield a couple of months ago, well, actually just a couple of weeks before the Olympics, the owners, Westfield owners, refused to shut the centre. You had police investigating a crime scene while a body still lied there. Now, that's quite horrific, but that's a sign of regeneration, because capitalism can't stop. I tweeted them, how can you do this? This isn't fair, this isn't right. Nobody listened. And we've had this whole experience in Stratford for about the last 10, 12 years, well before even it was announced that the Olympics would occur. We knew something was bubbling. And when you overlay all of this with the idea of cohesion, and when we were promised, well, this is going to be a place that's going to not only regenerate the area, but regenerate communities. It's going to bring us all together. Then actually, you're offering a lot of promise and a lot of hope to a lot of people. Newham, which is the borough that we're in at the moment, 55% of the population here is ethnic minorities. And that's going to increase with the next census. So tell me this. Why, then, did the local council choose to take away all foreign language newspapers from its local libraries? I'll tell you why. Because they thought cohesion was important and they thought those individuals needed to learn English instead. So they took away papers like the Daily Jung, like the Hindustan Times, and precisely to help people learn and to learn English. Now, the cost of that was £7,000 a year. By my estimate, that buys you, what, a quarter of an English teacher? Doesn't take you very far. But it doesn't matter, because we had the Olympics. And that's what it all came down to. We had the Olympics here, and actually that would be our great melting pot. It's a strange word, that whole kind of melting pot concept, isn't it? People love it. But what does it actually mean? Who cooks their food, and then what's the saucepan to disintegrate into it? Doesn't really make sense, does it, a melting pot? But people love those words, don't they? Melting pot, diversity, integration, cohesion. We don't mention multiculturalism now. No. That's a little bit dodgy, isn't it, right? But cohesion, a little bit, we can just about get away with that. So what did the Olympics tell us about cohesion? Interesting. You know, we had anybody listen to the BBC commentary at the opening ceremony? Interesting. You were better off watching the Olympics without the BBC, that's for sure. You had the nations coming out and everybody parading and saying, you know, fantastic to be in Stratford, fantastic to be in the UK. And one of the best lines I ever heard from a BBC journalist, Ecuador comes out. E for Ecuador, a country mourning the death of a giant tortoise. That was it. Go back and check on iPlayer. That was it. That was the sum commentary that they could contribute to Ecuador. It got better. Somalia, full of pirates. But nobody said this. Who saw the Nazi salute? Yeah. Did it get picked up by anybody else? No. We all saw it on Facebook, we all saw it on Twitter, but who else talked about it? Very few people, because that was just a German way of saying hello, wasn't it? You know, it was just an accident. We've got a problem here. We've got a problem with national events, and we had the same with the Jubilee as well, if you think about it. You know, not that long ago, the Jubilee, what were we told? It's bringing everybody together. Fondant fancies, Pims, and teas. Fantastic. We all love each other now, don't we? All because we're celebrating this woman having done her job for about however many years. Fantastic. Nobody celebrated my father's job at Ford when he worked there for 35 years. No, tell a lie, they did. They made him redundant. There's a different way of seeing the world, isn't it? So what did the BBC do during around the Jubilee? It's very interesting. They must have had a sensor on, because every time you saw a brown face anywhere near a Union Jack, or the best one was the burqa, though. A lady who had a burqa with the Union Jack on top of it as well. And the BBC just managed to zoom in. They can't do much else right at the moment, but they managed to get that right. And that, to them, was a sign of cohesion. Just because a woman's wearing a burqa with a Union Jack on it, that's meant to make us all happy and cohesive. Mo Farah. Yeah, fantastic, he won. But did he win as a refugee, or did he win as a fantastic athlete? We think of cohesion in ways that are very segmentized, that are very moments in time. We don't put the pieces together. And that's one of the challenges that we've got. We've got to make events like the Jubilee and the Olympics, whether we like them or not, to actually last in our memories. And not just short-term memories, and not something that we end up then putting in museums either, but things that we can use time and time again. We've got to move forward on a basis where actually cohesion isn't something that's an add-on, which is very much what it's been in 2012. I was gutted. I had a major birthday last month, and a couple of weeks before that, going through a little bit of a midlife crisis, I decided I'd get a tattoo. And remember, my name's Rita, so I decided I'd be a real rebel, live my life to the cause, and I got a tattoo saying, made in, B, capital R, capital I, capital T, capital A, I-N. And it worked. It's all right, you can take your time on that one. And it worked. And I was so proud of that tattoo. And I thought, not only have I done something that I really wanted, but I've made a political statement. That was until Seb Coe used it in his closing ceremony speech. I was gutted. I was gutted. And does that mean I've become part of the establishment? Possibly, by default, and I can't get rid of it now either. But we've got a challenge with cohesion. We've got to take bold initiatives, and not just getting a tattoo, but doing something very creative. We're under a lot of pressure, and cohesion underlines all of this. Some of us are even being told, don't use that word anymore. Why? It's the one thing that actually has worked successfully, where you can try and get communities together, where you can try and get people together. But actually, we're destroying it from inside by just looking at it in tiny little silos. We've got to be a lot more creative in how we engage with it, in how we sustain it, and actually how we make it meaningful and long-lasting. So how do we do that? Well, it's not easy. And I've really struggled with how do we actually make this a lasting legacy. We've got to forget the Mo Farahs, and that might be a controversial thing to say, but we've got to see that actually what we're doing is we're on a long journey. If we're going to break down these borders, if we're going to really truly have a society without borders, we've actually got to challenge the spirit that makes us just think in single silos. We've got to connect with people in a completely different way. Ideas about grand pamphlets, about grand publicity campaigns and everything don't actually work. Because where you make the biggest difference is in places like Barking and Dagenham, where you've got the BNP, and it doesn't matter how many leaflets in a household you leaflet there, that makes no difference. How you get messages across is simply by talking on a one-to-one basis. So you've got to talk to the BNP, you've got to talk to the racists, and you've got to convince them that there's an alternative. But the alternative isn't just Mo Farah. The alternative is challenging them to actually understand that they've got no other option. And we've lost that fight, and we've lost that passion, because over the last couple of years, becoming racist has become acceptable. And we have got to seriously understand that that is a moment in time that we have got to try and eradicate. Because if without that, we're doomed to continue just with moments in time. Thank you.